Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I recently did a couple videos on dating. I did a dating tips video for the ladies. This would be tips for a first date. And I also did a video for the fellas with dating tips on how to be a gentleman on a first date. In the comment section of both of those videos, I have been asked to do videos talking about tips for a happy and successful married life. And I would love to do videos on that. I believe there are a lot of things that go into a marriage. There are a lot of things that go into a family. And I think those would be some great videos to get out. But today I am only going to focus on one thing, and this really is in the spirit of Valentine's Day approaching. Many of us will be going out on a date night with our husband or our significant other for Valentine's Day, and it really made me think about the whole date night concept to begin with. So today what I would like to talk about is monthly date nights to take with your spouse. This could also apply to a long-term relationship that you are in. Now, ideally, we could be doing this once a week, but I think realistically, I want to really talk about the monthly date night. And the reason that I say that is many people could not afford to do a date night weekly. For many of us, that is just not going to fit into our schedule. And for many of you, you will have small children in the home, and getting a babysitter can be awfully expensive. I remember those days. Remember, my husband and I have 5 children, so you can only imagine how expensive it was back when our girls were small to hire a babysitter. We were fortunate enough to be able to bring in the grandparents to help us, and I would really recommend, if you want to make the effort, and I hope you do, to start scheduling a monthly date night with your spouse. If you do have small children, don't hesitate to ask the grandparents if they would help out on those nights. Ideally, they could even keep the kids overnight. And if you have involved grandparents and you have your husband's side and your side as well, they could alternate. I think the key here is we need to schedule it. We go to work because we have to. It's scheduled. We have meetings because they're scheduled. We have appointments because they're scheduled. But people neglect to schedule the most important meeting that needs to take place, and that is the one between you and your spouse. We also know that we go out all the time for dinner with our spouse. It's nothing to go head out and get a bite to eat, but that is not the same as a date night. And what I like to classify as a monthly date night that's successful is an unplugged date night. That means unplugged from your cellular devices. That means your cell phones. And I really think there needs to be some boundaries when scheduling this. So how do we go about scheduling the monthly date night, and what are some tips to make it a successful one? First of all, you need to sit down with your calendar and you need to look at the whole year. Every single month, choose a day, and it doesn't have to be a weekend, that works for you and your spouse. Maybe it's a Wednesday while the kids are at church youth group. Maybe that's the only time that you can schedule it in if you do have small children and you can't afford a babysitter. The thing to remember is this isn't always going to be perfect. My husband and I are now in a situation where it's very easy for us to take a date night because of the age of our children. So when I share these tips today, you really need to tailor them to where you are at in your life. Sit down with a calendar. Pick one date every single month for the remainder of the year that is going to be date night. And yes, there may be times that it needs to get canceled. We get sick, things come up, deaths take place in the family. That's reality, and we always have to be open to that. But I would say the goal is to protect that date night just as much as you would if it were any appointment or meeting. I read a book early in my marriage. This was a Christian-based book. I don't remember the author. And in that book, it talked about the most important thing is to make the most important thing the most important thing. Let me say that again. The most important thing is to make the most important thing the most important thing. What do you think the most important thing is? I think by now you can figure it out, and it's a solid, loving, nurturing, and fulfilling relationship. There is nothing better in this life than having meaningful relationships over everything else, but you have to be willing to cultivate those. You have to put the work in, and you have to put the time in. And I really believe that scheduling monthly date nights is a key component to creating a long-term and fulfilling relationship. So again, we have the calendar, and we are going to map out the whole entire year. If you need to go off of last year's calendar to get some ideas of upcoming events that could prevent your date night from happening, resource that. You know I work all the time on past calendars. Now that you have got all of your dates plugged into the calendar, you are now going to communicate this to your husband so that he can plug them into whatever device or calendar that he is using to schedule his obligations. When the date night is approaching, I want to encourage you to treat the date night like you would any other big event. Meaning if you were going out with your girlfriends, you know you're going to put some emphasis into how you're going to look. If you were going to a dinner meeting, you are going to think about what outfit you are going to wear. If you had a wedding reception coming up, you know you are going to think about that outfit and the image and the appearance that you're going for. I want you to look at your date night with your spouse or significant other the same. I want you to put just as much priority and effort into how you are going to portray your look. I'm going to share a little something with you that not everybody is going to agree with, but I am old school and I am not ashamed of that. But I truly believe that when you are in a committed relationship, when you are in a unity, such as a marriage, it isn't your responsibility to make other people happy, because we can't do that. But I truly believe when you are married, it is your responsibility to meet the needs of your partner. Now, most of us live this life as if, well, what about me? What is he doing for me? It's not my job to make him happy. Well, it's not your job to make him happy, because we really can't control one's happiness. But it is your job and your responsibility to give to that relationship and to bring pleasure to your husband in whatever way that may be. And I'm not focusing on sex when I say pleasure. There are many areas of our life that we receive pleasure. Sex is just one of the components. But I do believe that it is our responsibility as wives to meet the needs of our husband. Now, I feel the same applies for our husbands. There is an element of responsibility on his end to meet my needs as well. And I believe that really will lay a solid foundation for a good and successful marriage. You are going to need that solid foundation at times throughout your marriage to get you through some difficult things. And if you don't think you're going to face difficulty in your marriage, let me be the bearer of bad news. Expect it. That is the best thing that you can do. Expect it. And when you get over that hurdle, always know there's going to be more hurdles. Some are going to be small, some are going to be large. Now, where does this play in with the monthly date night, the unplugged date night? And it's very important that you communicate to your husband that this is going to be unplugged. And I'd be willing to bet he is going to support that. I think women potentially get a little bit more of a bad rap of being on their phone than men, because we tend to be a little bit more addicted to social media than men. I'm not saying everyone, but for the most part, I think if you were to check the statistics, women probably spend more time on social media than men do. That being said, I think he's going to be happy to hear that it is unplugged. Now, I understand if you have small children, and that's where you still want to make sure you have your device handy, and there may be a time when one or both of you need to check to make sure the babysitter or the grandparents have not reached out to you. Again, you have to tailor this to fit you where you are at today. Let's jump along though in our responsibility of meeting our partner's need on a date night. Well, again, you are going to put just as much emphasis in your appearance as you would for anything else, because It's important. It's important, and it sends the message to your spouse that you care, and that you want to get it together and look a little bit maybe better or more put together than you do on average. I also want to encourage you to wear something that you know he would like. We obviously know our spouse very well. We know what they like on us. And I don't care how you feel about your body. I guarantee you he doesn't feel the same. Always remember that our binoculars are looking at our flaws, but our husband's binoculars aren't seeing those same things that we are. Wear something that you know he will find appealing on you, and wear it with confidence. Also, this is not a night to complain about yourself or to complain about your body or your appearance. Again, that's not going to bring pleasure to him. And really segueing into the communication that takes place during the evening, set aside the work, set aside the chores, set aside the kids for the most part. I mean, they are a big component to our lives, but make a commitment to one another that no negativity is going to take place on your monthly date night. That the focus is going to be on your relationship or things that involve the family unit or your relationship, family vacations, upcoming events. How is your job? I think that would be okay to ask. How are things at work? This is not when you tell him where he's not meeting your needs, and this is not a time where he's telling you how you're not meeting his. Save that for something else. This should be a positive and pleasurable evening. Now, when you first get started, you may find out that you and your spouse really aren't good communicators. When you set aside all the hustle and bustle of the week, and the kids, and the chores, and the bills, and all the maintenance, you'll find out there's really not much left to talk about. Give it time, and if you do find that you literally are in awkward silence, force yourselves to just look at each other. Just look each other in the eye and maybe say, let's talk about some of the things that we used to enjoy to do together before kids. Before you know it, you are both going to be laughing at some of the things, the quirky things that you used to do. And he's going to find this very sexy, and so are you. Again, this should be a pleasurable time for both of you. Put the effort in. He's not perfect, and you're not perfect either. But this is an opportunity to grow and to cultivate and to connect two people that once were so connected, but so easily got led astray in all of the hustle and bustle of life. Talk about the things that you used to enjoy to do, the music that you used to listen to. That's so fun to listen to old tunes. So fun. Talk about some of the favorite places you used to go to eat. And you may laugh at how there was no rhyme or reason to your diet back then. Have fun and smile and just enjoy and savor the moment. I hope this video was helpful. I hope I can encourage you to get that on the calendar. Let me know what you do with your spouse or significant other. Do you do date nights? Are your date nights unplugged? Do you consider just going to dinner a date night? What is considered a date night? We all love to hear these things from one another. The other thing I need to chime in real quick before I leave you today is it can get costly as well. And that is another reason why I think it would be hard to do a weekly date night. Even if you're an empty nester, or let's say you're like my husband and I, the kids are getting older or the ones that are left, and you have a lot of freedom and flexibility, it could be very costly. I know for my husband and I, a scheduled date night is definitely different than just going out to a local restaurant to get a bite to eat or running up to a pub to watch some sporting events and have a couple drinks. Date nights are special. I give it more thought. I save money for it. I talk about the envelopes. Have an envelope that you can be putting money in every time you and he get paid. Maybe some months you'll go to a nicer restaurant. For my husband and I, we have a couple times a year, generally our anniversary in May, and then we always do one in December around Christmas, where we spend a little bit more but we're investing in us, and that's the key. There may be other months that you're just going to Texas Roadhouse because that's in your budget, or Olive Garden because that's in your budget. It really doesn't matter what your date night consists of, and it really doesn't even have to be dinner, although I encourage that because I like the whole dynamics of sitting across from one another and having to look each other in the eye. It's very interesting when you're not used to it. So if you do it, keep us posted on how it goes. I hope this video spoke to some of you. Let me know how it's going. Let me know what else you would like to see when it comes to cultivating a solid foundation of a fulfilling relationship or marriage. All right, I will see you in the next video. Take care and happy Valentine's Day.